Mark Elias is a big deal lawyer in Democratic Party politics. He has argued and won 4 cases before the U.S. Supreme Court. He's represented dozens of senators and governors and members of Congress and presidential candidates. He and his team are currently litigating 36 voting rights cases ahead of the November election. Now, by necessity for this pandemic election, a lot of their work right now is aimed specifically at safeguarding people's ability to vote through the mail. Well, today, Mark Elias issued a warning that the U.S. mail system, is not ready for November. And he says that is partly by design. Quote, the Trump administration has turned to weakening the Postal Service in a cynical effort to keep people from voting. Voters can't be forced to cross their fingers and hope that their ballots will count. Our job between now and Election Day is to make sure that we keep up the fight for voting rights, including making sure all ballots cast by mail are counted. Joining us now is Mark Elias. He's the founder of Democracy Docket. Mr. Elias, I really appreciate you taking the time. Thanks.
Happy to be here.
Is the stuff that is going on around the Postal Service, including this reporting today from Politico that the president and his advisors are thinking about executive orders to try to stop the counting of mail votes cast through the mail, is this just one in a long line of things like this that you've been fighting for years? Or does this feel qualitatively more worrying than the usual stuff?
Well, I think it's qualitatively more worrying for 2 reasons. First of all, for the reasons you set out earlier, which is that Donald Trump has, at a minimum, authoritarian impulses and seems willing to violate every norm that any other president would abide by. The second, of course, is that we're going to have more voting by mail in 2020 than we've ever had before. So all of the flaws in the process will show up bigger, and all of the ballots that are at risk will grow in size.
The Postal Service is not a typical battleground. It's not a typical sort of arena in which we fight these things out. I mean, obviously, absentee ballots are a thing and overseas mail-in ballots are a thing. And we've always conducted some proportion of the vote by mail. There are a few states that have been doing mostly vote by mail for a long time now. But the idea that a national election would have this sort of choke point in this one part of the federal government where we see the president trying to exert new control, it does feel new. As a tactical matter, as a litigator who fights these things, is this a new thing? Is this something new that you and your colleagues have to learn in terms of what levers there are to make sure that the post office does things right?
Yeah, this is entirely new. I mean, in that respect, I'm flabbergasted that we are in a circumstance in which Donald Trump first replaced the Postmaster General with a political crony, and now is taking step after step after step, including a Friday Night Massacre of 23 employees. Before that, there had already been resignations and replacements of the nonpartisan staff. And every day we get another indication that, as you say, the Postal Service is being weaponized to be a choke point against vote by mail. And that is unprecedented in our history. Make no mistake about it. We've had the Postal Service delivering ballots through wars, through a civil war, through Great Depression, and never, ever before have we seen a president or a political party try to weaponize it to systematically keep voters from voting.
If you ask me the single thing that I am most concerned about between now and November, it is that we do everything humanly possible to ensure that everybody who wants a change in administration actually registers that change at the ballot box, whether that is in person or by mail-in voting. Now, what we've seen in a way that is unique to modern political history is a president who's explicit in trying to discourage people from voting, right? I mean, usually the Republican Party for quite some time has actively tried to discourage people's votes from counting in all kinds of ways, whether it's voter ID laws or blatant gerrymandering, making it difficult for people in certain precincts to find their polling places, right? All that stuff is contrary to American democracy, but I think the Republicans' view has been it's all fair game as long as it helps us gain power. What we've never seen before is a president say, I'm going to try to actively kneecap the Postal Service to encourage voting. And I will be explicit about the reason I'm doing it.
Yeah.
That's sort of unheard of, right? And we also have not had an election in the midst of a pandemic that is still deadly and killing a lot of people. And we still don't know the long-term side effects of contracting the illness.
Everyone who wants to vote by mail should and should have confidence in it, but they need to make sure they vote by mail early. Because what we're likely to see is not a stopping of the of the post office or a halting of vote by mail, but rather what we're seeing are systematic delays. The Trump administration is taking efforts to make the mails move slower around balloting. So people should make sure they are registered, make sure they apply for their absentee ballot early, and make sure when they get it, vote it right away. Get it in. Don't wait until the last minute, because getting those ballots in on time is going to be really very important for November.